The next day in the sun show, and Coraline's mother took her into the largest town to buy clothes for school. They dropped her father off at the rail station. He was going to London for a day to see some people. Coraline waved him goodbye. They went to the department store to buy the school clothes. Coraline saw some day clothes, green gloves that she liked a lot. Her mother refused to buy them for her, preferring instead to buy white socks, navy blue school underpants, 4 gray blouses, and a dark gray skirt. But Mom, everybody at school got gray blouses and everything. Nobody's got green gloves. I could be the only one. Her mother ignored her. She was talking to a shop assistant. They were talking about which kind of sweaters to get for Coraline, and they agreed that the best thing to do would be to do embarrassing large and baggy, in the hope that one day she might grow into it. Coraline wandered off and looked at a display of lantern boots shaped like frogs and ducks and rabbits. Then she wandered back. Coraline? Oh, there you are. Where on earth were you? I was kidnapped by aliens, said Coraline. They came down from outer space with ray guns, but I fooled them by wearing a wig and laughing in a foreign accent, and I escaped. Yes, dear, now I think you could do with some more hair clips, don't you? No? Well, let's say half a dozen, to be on the safe side, said her mother. Coraline didn't say anything. In the car, on the way back home, Coraline said, What's in the empty flat? I don't know. Nothing, I expect. It probably looks like our flat before we moved in. Empty rooms. Do you think you can get it in there from our flat? Not unless you can walk through bricks, dear. Oh. They got home around lunchtime. The sun was shining, although the day was cold. Coraline's mother looked in the fridge and found a sad little tomato and a piece of cheese with green stuff growing in it. There was only a crust in the bread bin. I better dash down to the shops and get some fish fingers or something, said her mother. Do you want to come? No, said Coraline. Suit yourself. And her mother left. Then came back to got some purse and car keys and went out again. Coraline was bored. She flipped through a book her mother was reading about naval people in distant country, how every day they removed a piece of white silk and drawn them in wax, then dip the silks in dye, and then draw them more in wax and dye them some more, and boil the wax on hot water, and then finally throw them now beautiful cloths on a fire and burn them to ashes. It seemed particularly pointless to Coraline, but she hoped that people enjoyed it. She was still bored, and her mother wasn't yet home. Coraline got a chair and pushed it over to the kitchen door. She climbed onto the chair and reached up. She jumped down and got a broom cupboard. She brought out the chair and reached up with the broom. Chink! She climbed down from the chair and picked up the keys. She smiled triumphantly. Then she leaned the broom against the wall and went into the drawing room. The family did not use the drawing room. They had inherited the furniture from Coraline's grandmother, along with a wooden coffee table, a side table, a heavy glass ashtray, and the oil painting of a bowl of fruit. Coraline could never work out why everyone would like to paint a bowl of food. Other one was empty. There were no knickknacks on the mantelpiece, no statues or clocks, nothing that made it feel comfortable or lived in. The old black key felt colder than any others. She pushed it in the keyhole and turned smoothly with a satisfying clunk. Coraline stopped and listened. She knew she was doing something wrong, and she was trying to listen for her mother coming back, but she heard nothing. Then Coraline put her hand on the doorknob and turned it, and finally she opened the door. It opened in a dark hallway. The bricks had gone, as they'd never been then there. There was a cold, musty smell coming from the open doorway. It smelled like something very old and very slow. Coraline went through the door. She wondered what the empty flat would be like if that was corridor led. Coraline walked down the corridor uneasily. There was something very familiar about it. The carpet beneath their feet was the same carpet as they had in their flat. The wallpaper was the same wallpaper they had. The picture hanging on the wall was the same that they had hanging in their hallway at home. She knew that she was. She was in her own house. She hadn't left. She shook her head, confused. She stared at the picture hanging on the wall. No, it wasn't exactly the same. The picture they had in their own hallway, away in the old-fashioned clothes, staring at some bubbles. But now the expression of his face was different. He was looking at the bubbles as he was planning to do something very nasty and deep to them. And there was something peculiar about his eyes. Coraline stared at his eyes, trying to work out what exactly was different. She always had it when somebody said, "Coraline?" It sounded like her mother. Coraline went into the kitchen where the voice had come from. A woman stood in the kitchen with her back to Coraline. She looked a little like Coraline's mother, only her skin was white as paper. Only she was taller and thinner. Only her fingers were too long, and they never stopped moving, and her dark red fingernails were curved and sharp. "Coraline," said the woman, "is that you?" And then she turned around. Her eyes were big black buttons. "Lunchtime, Coraline," said the woman. "Who are you?" asked Coraline. "Oh, I'm your other mother," said the woman. "Go and tell your other father that lunch is ready." She opened the door of the oven. Suddenly Coraline realized how hungry she was. It smelled wonderful. "Well, go on." Coraline went down the hall to where the studies was. She opened the door. There was a man in there, sitting at the keyboard, with his back to her. "Hello," said Coraline. I mean, she said to say that lunch is ready." The man turned around. His eyes were buttons, big and black and shiny. "Hello, Coraline," he said. "I'm starving." He got up and went into the kitchen. They sat at the kitchen table, and Coraline's other mother brought them lunch, a huge golden brown roast chicken, fried potatoes, tiny green peas. Coraline shoved the food into her mouth. It tasted wonderful. "We've been waiting for you for a long time," said Coraline's other father. "For me?" "Yes," said the other mother. "It wasn't the same here without you, but we knew you arrived one day, and then we became a proper family. Would you like some more chicken?" It was the best chicken that Coraline had ever eaten. Her mother sometimes made chicken, but it was always out of packets or frozen, and was very dry. It never tasted of anything. When Coraline's father cooked chicken, he brought the real chicken, but he did strange things to it, like stewing in a wine, or stuffing it with prunes, or baking it on pastry, and Coraline would always refuse to touch it on pins. She took some more chicken. "I didn't know I had another mother," said Coraline cautiously. "Of course you do. Everyone does," said the other mother, her black button eyes gleaming. "After lunch I thought you might like to play in your rooms with the rats." "The rats?" "From upstairs." Coraline had never seen a rat, except on the television. She was quite looking forward to it. This was turned out to be a very interesting day after all. After lunch her other parents set the washing up, and Coraline went down the hall to her other bedroom. It was different from her bedroom at home. For a start, it was painted an off-putting shade of green and peculiar shade of pink. Coraline decided that she wouldn't want to have to sleep in there, but that the color scheme was awful a lot more interesting than her own bedroom. There was some lots of sublimation things that she had never seen before. Wind-up angels that floated around the bedroom, like stardust sparrows. Books with pictures that breathed and crawled and shimmered. Little dinosaur skulls that shadowed on teeth until you passed. A whole toy box filled with wonderful toys. This is more like it, thought Coraline. She looked down out of the window. Outside, the view was the same as she saw from her own bedroom. Trees, fields, and around them on the horizon, distant purple hills. Something black scurried across the floor and vanished under the bed. Coraline got down on her knees and looked under the bed. 50 little red eyes stared back at her. "Hello," said Coraline. "Are you the rats?" They came out of the bed, blinking their eyes in the light. They had short, soot black fur, little red eyes, pink paws like tiny hands, and pink, hairless tails like long, smooth worms. "Can you talk?" she asked. The largest, blackest of the rats shook its head. It had an unpleasant sort of smile, Coraline thought. "Well," asked Coraline, "what do you do?" The rats formed a circle. Then they began to climb on top of each other carefully but smoothly until they formed a pyramid with the largest rat at the top. The rats began to sing in the high, whispery voices.
We have teeth and we have tails. We have tails. We have eyes. We will hear before you bow. We will be here when we rise.
It wasn't a pretty song. Coraline was sure she'd heard a bit before, or something like it, although she wasn't able to remember exactly where. Then the pyramid fell apart and the rats scurried fast and black towards the door. The other crazy man up the stairs was standing in the doorway, holding a tall black hat in his hands. The rats scampered up him, boring into his pockets, into his shirt, and up his Strabber's legs, down his leg. The largest rat climbed on the old man's shoulders, swung a long grey moustache past the black button eyes and on the top of the man's head. In seconds, the only evidence that the rats were even there at all was the restless swoops under the man's clothes, for it was lying from place to place across him, and there was still a largest rat, who stared down with glimmering red eyes at Coraline from the man's head. The old man was putting his hat on, and the last rat was gone. "Hello, Coraline," said the old man upstairs. "I heard you were here. It's time for rats to have their dinner, but you can come up with me if you like, and watch them feed." There was something hungry in the old man's button eyes that made Coraline feel uncomfortable. "No, thank you," she said. "I'm going outside to explore." The old man nodded very slowly. Coraline could hear the rats whispering to each other, although she could not tell what they were saying. She was not certain that she wanted to know what they were saying. The other parent stood in the kitchen doorway as she walked down the corridor, smiling a deadly smiles and waving slowly. "Have a nice time outside," said her other mother. "We just wait here, you come back," said her other father. When Coraline got to the front door, she turned back and looked at them. They were still watching her and waving and smiling. Coraline walked outside and down the steps.